My mom told me the whole family was coming for Thanksgiving, but I was not welcome. She said, "This year is about your sister, so do not ruin it." Then my sister, Brittany, sent a text that felt like a total slap in the face. "Do not come. The guest list is final." I did not argue. I did not beg. Instead, I finally said yes to that out-of-state transfer I had turned down for years just to stay close to them. 1 week later, my dad, Gerald, called me in a total panic, saying they were changing the locks on the house. What he did not realize was that he was changing the locks on a house that I owned. My name is Sarah, and I am 33 years old. I work as a senior supply chain risk director in Boston, dealing with global logistics and multi-million-dollar contracts every single day. I am literally trained to predict disasters before they happen, but somehow I never saw the one growing inside my own childhood home. Before I go on with this story, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up to family members who totally underestimated your worth. Growing up as the eldest daughter meant I was the designated responsible one, while my younger sister Brittany was the golden child who could do no wrong. I paid for the groceries. I paid for the vacations. I even paid off my parents' entire mortgage 5 years ago when they were drowning in debt and about to lose everything. Yet to them, I was always the outsider, the cold corporate workaholic who didn't understand family values. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon in Boston, and I was sitting in my corner office overlooking the harbor. On my desk sat 2 beautifully wrapped boxes. One was a vintage Rolex for my father, Gerald. The other was a limited edition Chanel handbag for my mother, Brenda. I had spent months tracking these down because I wanted this Thanksgiving to be perfect. I wanted to prove to them that even though I was busy, I still cared. I wanted to cry just thinking about how much effort I put into people who barely liked me. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. I smiled, thinking it was my mom asking about the menu. But when I saw the text, my heart dropped into my stomach. It was from Brenda. "Sarah, we need to talk about Thursday. Brittany and Andre are in a delicate place right now with the pregnancy announcement. We think it is best if you do not come to dinner this year. Your presence tends to make things tense because you ask too many questions. Let's try again at Christmas." I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Tense? I had already wired $3,500 to the catering company for that dinner. I had paid for the wine. I had paid the heating bill that kept them warm. My hands were shaking as I dialed her number. "Mom, is this a joke?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "I have the gifts right here. I paid for the caterer. You can't just uninvite me from a family holiday via text message 2 days before." "Lower your voice, Sarah," my mother hissed. "This is exactly why we made this decision. You are too intense. Brittany feels judged because you are single and focused on work while she is building a real family. Andre agrees. We just want a peaceful night without you flaunting your money or looking down on Andre's business ventures. Just send the wine over and stay home. You understand, right?" The line went dead. She actually hung up on me. I looked at the Rolex. I looked at the Chanel bag. And then I looked at the email on my computer screen from corporate. It was an offer for a regional director position in Chicago. I had ignored it for weeks because I didn't want to leave my aging parents alone. But looking at that screen, something inside me snapped. I was done being the bank account without a face. I expected an apology or maybe some hesitation when I called back, but Brenda sounded annoyed I was even bothering her. "Look, Sarah, we discussed this. Brittany is entering her 3rd trimester. Her hormones are all over the place. She needs a supportive environment, and frankly, you just do not fit that description." "Supportive?" I repeated, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I wanted to cry, but the heat of the anger was drying my tears before they could fall. I have supported this family for a decade. I paid for the kitchen remodel you're standing in. I paid for Brittany's wedding 2 years ago. How am I the problem? That is exactly the attitude I am talking about, Brenda sighed. You always bring up money. It makes Andre uncomfortable. He is trying to build his real estate portfolio, and you drilling him about his commission checks is humiliating. He is the man of the house now that your father is retired. You need to respect his authority. I nearly laughed out loud. Andre had not sold a single property in 18 months. He spent his days filming TikTok videos in my parents' living room, pretending to be a mogul while I paid the electricity bill that powered his ring light. His authority? I asked in a dangerous whisper. He lives in the guest room rent-free, Mom. See? There you go again, being condescending. This is why we need space. We want a traditional Thanksgiving where everyone feels equal, not one where you sit at the head of the table acting like the CEO of the family just because you sign the checks. Brittany is doing important work on social media, and she needs to feel validated. The silence stretched between us. I realized in that moment they didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a resource. Fine, I said quietly. I will stay in Boston. Is that all? Well, actually, Brenda said, her tone shifting to that fake sweet expectant voice. Since this was a last-minute change, we already placed the catering order with that Italian place you like. Obviously, your father and I cannot afford that on our fixed income. So just Zelle me the $3,000 like you usually do. Consider it a baby shower gift for your sister since you won't be there. I stood up. Boston looked gray and cold, but my blood was boiling. You want me to pay for a party I am banned from attending? Do not be petty, Sarah. It is for family. Andre already promised his friends top-shelf liquor. You wouldn't want to embarrass him, would you? Just send the money by 5 so we can confirm the delivery. I looked at the unread email from Chicago. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply made a choice. I will take care of it, Mom, I said. And I meant it, just not in the way she thought. Before I could even put the phone down, Brittany messaged me. It was a screenshot of a digital invitation with gold calligraphy, the grand Thanksgiving reveal. I zoomed in. The guest list was huge. There were names I didn't even recognize, Andre's college roommates, my mother's yoga instructor, even a second cousin Maureen we hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone was invited. Everyone except me. Then came the text that seared itself into my brain. Just wanted to make sure you saw the final head count so you do not show up awkwardly, Brittany wrote with a shrugging emoji. Honestly, Sar, it is for the best. I am focusing on manifesting positive maternal energy. Having a bitter spinster aunt hovering around might jinx the gender reveal. You know how you get about people who are actually happy. We do not want that bad luck rubbing off on the baby. I stared at the word spinster. I was 33. I owned a penthouse. I managed a team of 40 people. I had a portfolio that could buy Andre's imaginary career 3 times over. But to them, I was just a failure who paid the bills. I typed a response and then deleted it. Arguing with a narcissist is like pouring water into a sieve. Brittany did not want a sister, she wanted a sponsor. And she had just insulted the only investor keeping her lifestyle afloat. Cold calm settled over me. It was the same feeling I got right before I fired an incompetent manager. It was pure logic. If I was such bad luck, then I should remove myself completely from their equation. I should take my negative energy and my positive bank balance far away. I took a screenshot of her text for my records and filed it into a folder named Family. Then I turned back to my computer. The Chicago offer was still open. I had 15 minutes before the deadline. I didn't hesitate. I hit reply and typed, Dear Mr. Henderson, I am writing to formally accept the position of Regional Risk Director in Chicago. I am requesting an immediate transfer. I can be on a plane within 48 hours. I pressed send. The swoosh sound of that email departing felt like a physical weight lifting off my chest. I was no longer Sarah the doormat. I stood up and grabbed a cardboard box. I began clearing my desk. I took down the framed photo of my family from graduation. I looked at their faces, Gerald and Brenda looking distracted, Brittany checking her makeup. I didn't feel anger anymore, I just felt tired. I dropped the frame into the trash bin. Then I grabbed the Rolex and the Chanel bag. My mother wanted $3,000 for a party? Well, I could return these gifts for $12,000. That money would be my deposit on a new life. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. My apartment was filled with boxes. I had a flight in 6 hours, but first I had to dismantle the infrastructure of my parents' comfortable life. I sat at my kitchen island with a coffee and opened my laptop. It was time for surgery. I started with the small things. I logged into the account for Greengrass Landscaping. Cancelled. Next was the premium cable package with the sports channels Andre loved. Downgraded to the basic free tier. Then the grocery delivery account. I removed my credit card and replaced it with an old expired debit card from years ago. But the real weapon was the mortgage. I navigated to the bank portal. 42 Maple Drive. $2,800 deducted from my account every month. I hovered my mouse over the Cancel Autopay button. My hand hesitated for a split second. I thought about the house where I grew up. But then I remembered, the guest list is final. I clicked the button. I felt a strange mix of guilt and liberation. You cannot buy love, and I was done trying to rent their tolerance. As my Uber drove me to the airport, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the secure home system at the house, which I also paid for. The front door had opened. They were probably waking up, getting ready for the big party where they would celebrate a future without me. They had no idea the roof was about to start leaking, figuratively speaking. I turned off the notifications. I turned off location sharing. As the plane took off over the gray waters, I ordered champagne. The bridge was burned. Somewhere over Montana, the air felt like freedom. I was 30,000 feet up when the atmosphere at the house began to shift from festive to frantic. The driveway was packed. Maureen was already deep into the cheap wine Andre bought to replace the good stuff I usually provided. Brittany was sitting on her rented throne, acting like a queen. But there was a problem. The dining table was empty. The food was late. Brenda was pacing the kitchen, her heels clicking aggressively. She had promised a 5-course feast from Giordano's. "Where is the delivery?" she hissed at Gerald. "Maybe traffic is bad," Gerald shrugged, hiding in the corner with a beer. Back on the plane, I knew exactly what was happening. The catering company had a strict policy, payment in full 48 hours prior. When I pulled my card, the order was simply deleted. The house, the first stomach growled. "Hey, Brenda, when are we eating?" one of Andre's friends, Kyle, asked. Brenda forced a smile that looked like a grimace. She retreated to the laundry room and dialed the restaurant, her hands shaking. She was about to find out her perfect evening was built on credit that no longer existed. The doorbell finally rang at 6:45. Brenda practically ran to the door. She flung it open to a delivery driver, Mark, with a clipboard, but his hands were empty. "Please bring the food in immediately," Brenda commanded. "I need a valid payment first, ma'am," Mark said flatly. The card on file was removed and the pre-auth was voided. "I can't release the trays without $2,700 right now." The room went silent. 30 guests were watching. Brenda turned pale. "Gerald, get your wallet." Sarah must have had a glitch. "Just pay it and we'll sort it out later." Gerald fumbled for his wallet, his hands shaking. He handed over his Visa. The machine whirred and then gave a harsh beep. "Declined," Mark said. "Try it again." Gerald stammered. "There must be a mistake." "Insufficient funds," the driver clarified. Gerald looked at the floor. He had maxed everything out weeks ago trying to keep up appearances. "This is ridiculous," Andre announced, stepping forward. He pulled out a shiny platinum card. He handed it over with a sneer. When it finally beeped approval, his jaw tightened. That was the look of a man who just spent his entire monthly hustle money on pasta he didn't even want to pay for. He glared at the empty spot at the table where I should have been. But Brittany was determined to save the night. Forget the delay. It's time for the main event. The reveal video. She pointed to the 85-inch TV I had bought last Christmas. Andre grabbed the remote like a scepter. Gather around, guys. Prepare to be amazed. He pressed the power button. The screen hummed, but instead of a video, a bright red message box appeared. Service suspended. Count past due. The room was deathly silent. Did you guys not pay the cable bill? Maureen asked loudly. Brittany's face turned a shade of crimson that matched the error message. Andre, fix it. Andre mashed the buttons, panic in his eyes. It's a glitch. The provider must be doing maintenance. But it wasn't a glitch. I had severed the internet and the cable. The massive screen was just a black mirror reflecting their failure. That's the disconnect screen, man, Kyle laughed from the back. You got cut off. Gerald sank into his chair. He knew. He knew exactly who paid that bill. Party was now devoid of music and food, filled only with the realization that their lifestyle was a hollow shell. Gerald locked himself in the bathroom and dialed my number, his face red with humiliation. I answered as the clouds turned pink outside my window. Hello, Dad, I said. What the hell is going on, Sarah, he hissed. You made us a laughingstock. The food, the TV, Andre looks like a fool. Fix this immediately. I can't, Dad. I'm not there. I'm giving you the space you asked for. I wanted to cry for the girl I used to be, but I wanted to laugh for the woman I am now. Do not play games. You pay those bills. You did this to ruin Brittany's night. Dad, I said, my voice dropping to that cold, logical tone. You and Brenda said I wasn't welcome. Brittany said the guest list was final. I accepted that. But when you uninvited me, you also uninvited my wallet. I'm not paying for a household I do not live in. Every luxury they enjoyed was tied to my name. Catering, the high-speed cable, even the heat running through the vents. When I stepped out of their lives, the perks went with me. That wasn't an act of malice, Dad. It was just basic math. You're being heartless, my father whispered. For the first time, I heard a tremor of genuine fear in his voice. He wasn't mourning a daughter. He was panicking because his safety net had just been shredded. No, Dad, I countered, my voice flat and professional. Heartless is pocketing $10,000 of my savings for a nursery remodel and then banning me from the house for being bad luck. Heartless is letting Andre mock me while I pay his bills. I'm finished. Enjoy the appetizers. I ended the call before he could start negotiating. I had no interest in hearing empty promises that things would change if I just restored the Wi-Fi. I switched my phone to airplane mode and leaned back. For once, the chaos unfolding downstairs wasn't my problem to solve. I was just a passenger on a flight toward a fresh start. Inside the powder room back at 42 Maple Drive, my father stared at his reflection, the weight of his reality finally sinking in. Outside, the last remaining guest made a quiet excuse and bolted for the door. As soon as the latch clicked, the house erupted. Andre yanked off his tie and hurled it at the floor, his face twisted in a mask of fury. $2,700, he roared, kicking the leg of the expensive coffee table I had imported for them. Do you have any idea how many houses I have to pretend to sell to make that back in this market? She did this on purpose, my sister Brittany added, her voice sharp with resentment. She's sitting in some fancy hotel laughing while we're stuck here with the bill. My mother sat on the edge of the sofa, looking utterly defeated. The evening had transformed from a grand reveal into a public embarrassment. I never thought she'd be this cruel, Mom whispered. We just wanted a peaceful celebration for the baby. That's the game, Mom, Andre said, pacing the room like a cornered animal. This isn't about a missed payment. It's about power. Sarah uses her bank account like a leash. She thinks paying the bills gives her the right to dictate your lives. She thinks she owns you. He stopped, pointing an accusing finger at my father. Did you hear how she spoke to you, Dad? She hung up on you like you were a telemarketer. She has zero respect for you. She treats you like a charity project she can switch off whenever she gets bored. It's financial blackmail. My father looked down at his empty beer bottle, his shoulders slumped. She told me she was just giving us the space we asked for, he mumbled. Space? Andre scoffed. She's trying to break you. She pays the mortgage and holds the deed, so she thinks she can pull the rug out whenever she wants. What happens when the baby is born? If the baby cries too much, is she going to shut off the water? Are you going to let your grandchild suffer because Sarah is having a tantrum? Mom straightened her back, her eyes flashing. She wouldn't go that far. She already has. Andre hissed, his voice dropping to a low, manipulative tone. She just humiliated you in front of your friends. She's a loose cannon. The only way to stop a bully is to take away their leverage. You need to show her this is your territory, not hers. What are we supposed to do? Mom asked, her voice tight with indignation. We lock her out, Andre stated firmly. She thinks she can waltz in here and inspect her investment whenever she feels like it. I say we take away her key. We change the locks tonight. We send a message that your dignity isn't for sale. At this hour, my father protested. I've got a guy, Andre lied easily. An emergency locksmith. He owes me. Let's take the power back, Dad. Let's make sure that when she eventually comes crawling back to apologize, she has to stand on the porch and knock like a stranger. Mom looked at the darkened television screen and then at her husband. Do it, she commanded. Call him. I'm tired of feeling like a guest in my own home. Andre flashed a shark-like grin. He reached for his phone not to call a friend but to summon the most expensive locksmith in the city, fully intending to stick my father with the bill later. He had successfully reframed the story. He wasn't the deadbeat son-in-law anymore. He was the defender of the family home. He had just declared war. The strobe of the locksmith's van lit up the driveway at 10 p.m. Inside, the air was thick with a toxic mix of spite and paranoia. Andre stood guard as the technician began dismantling the high-end smart locks I had installed for their protection. Replace the whole thing, Andre ordered. I want heavy-duty steel deadbolts. No apps, no Wi-Fi, no digital backdoors she can bypass from her phone. My father shifted uncomfortably. Sarah spent a fortune on these. They're connected to the alarm system. They keep the insurance rates down. Maybe we just reset the codes? That's exactly the trap, Dad. Andre snapped. As long as those smart locks are active, she's in the house with you. She can track when you leave and when you come back. She's probably monitoring us right now. You want her spying on the baby? Mom rubbed her arms as if she felt a chill. He's right. It's invasive. I want to know that when I bolt the door, it actually stays shut. The locksmith's drill shrieked through the house, a violent sound that tore through the quiet night. Metal shavings and sawdust fell onto the designer rug I had bought for Mom's last birthday. Andre watched with a smug expression. In his mind, he wasn't just swapping hardware. He was deleting me from the premises. Hand the keys to me, Andre told the locksmith when the work was finished. I'll handle the distribution. From now on, we control the access. No more checking in whenever she feels like it. The front door now looked mismatched and scarred, the holes from the smart system covered by cheap brass plates. But Andre didn't care about the look. He slammed the bolt home with a satisfying thud. There, he announced. Try clicking an app now, Sarah. You're officially locked out. My father stared at the new hardware. For a fleeting second, He looked like he realized the gravity of locking out the person who paid the property taxes. But then he saw Mom smiling and he stayed silent. He let them believe the fantasy. By midnight, they were celebrating their independence with the last of the wine. They truly believed they had won a victory over a controlling daughter. They failed to realize they had just committed a massive breach of contract. By altering the property and revoking the owner's access, they had stripped away the only legal shield they had. 1 week later, I was looking out at a stunning view of Lake Michigan from my new Chicago office. I had enjoyed 7 days of pure, unadulterated peace. Then my phone buzzed. It was my father. "Hello, Dad," I said, keeping my tone professional. "I'm calling to tell you that you don't need to worry about supervising the house anymore," he said, his voice filled with a newfound misplaced bravado. "Don't bother stopping by without a formal invite. We've secured our privacy." "Meaning what, exactly?" I asked. "We changed the locks, Sarah." He said it like he was winning a game of chess. "Andre took care of it," he continued. "We got rid of your tracking devices. We have manual deadbolts now. You don't have a key. We're done letting you use your money to spy on us. This is our home." I let out a dry, hollow laugh. It was the sound of a risk expert watching a client walk off a cliff. "You changed the locks," I repeated, confirming it for the record. "You physically locked the owner out of the building." "That's right. And don't think you can talk your way back in." "Dad, let me ask you one thing," I said, my voice dropping. "Before you let Andre take a drill to that door, did anyone bother to check whose name is actually on the deed?" "What are you talking about? We've lived here for 3 decades. Living there and owning it are 2 different things, Dad. Did you forget 2019? The foreclosure notices? The day I found you crying because the bank was hours away from seizing the keys?" That was years ago," he stammered. "It was the day I bought the house from the bank to keep you from the streets. I hold the title. You signed a lease that strictly forbids changing the locks without my written permission. You just broke the law, Dad. You just locked the landlord out of her own house." The line went silent. I remembered that day 5 years ago, the weight of my $80,000 savings going toward their mistakes. I had given them a $1 a year lease as a gift, but I had one rule: don't touch the structure. Back at the house, my father sat on the couch, ashen-faced. He repeated my words to Andre, who just laughed it off. "She's bluffing. No one does that for $1. She's trying to scare you. I'm an agent, I'll pull the records right now." He opened his laptop and searched the county assessor's site. "Watch. Your names will be right there." Page loaded. Andre's smugness evaporated instantly. "What is it?" Mom asked. "It's her," Andre whispered. "She owns it. All of it." "What does that mean?" "It means we're squatters who just vandalized a landlord's property," Andre said, his voice trembling. He looked at the brass key in his hand. It wasn't a prize anymore, it was evidence. The next morning, a formal legal notice arrived on my father's tablet from Sterling and Associates. Urgent, notice of lease termination and demand for cure. It was a cold, clinical demand. They had 24 hours to hand over a set of keys to the law firm or face immediate eviction proceedings. "Eviction?" Mom wailed. "She's going to toss us out?" "Stay calm," Andre barked. "She's bluffing. Think of the scandal. A wealthy daughter evicting her pregnant sister? She'd never go through with it. We don't budge. If we give her the keys, she wins." My father looked at the legal seal, then at Andre. Once again, he chose to trust the man who had failed him before. He closed the tablet. Mom wasn't scared, she was insulted. She printed the notice just to tear it into pieces. How dare she? I carried her for 9 months. She thinks a piece of paper makes her the boss of me? She's weak, Gerald. She's always done what we wanted in the end. She just wants us to beg. She went back to making tea as if she had one. She didn't realize that the law doesn't care about maternal rights when a contract is signed. Clock in my Chicago office hit 9 a.m. The deadline was gone. I checked my inbox, nothing. I called my attorney. Any word? Nothing, Sarah. They've ignored the demand. I hung up and looked out at the city. My mother thought I was still that same girl who would cave just to keep the peace. She was wrong. I was the landlord now. And I was taking my house back. I logged into the utility portals with the detached efficiency of a machine. To someone like my mother, a deadline was just a suggestion, but to a risk manager like me, it was a trigger. I didn't feel anger as I clicked through the Puget Sound Energy dashboard. I felt the clinical precision of a surgeon removing a toxin. I disconnected the electricity first, citing a vacant property. Submit. Next was the gas. Seattle in late November is brutal, and with a forecast of 30 degrees Celsius, the furnace was their only shield against the frost. Submit. Finally, I authorized the remote shutoff of the water main. 2,000 miles away, the hum of the refrigerator at 42 Maple Drive died. The lights flickered and vanished. But the most chilling sound would have been the silence from the basement as the furnace blower spun down. My mother was likely in the shower when the pressure failed, leaving her shivering under a freezing trickle with shampoo still in her hair. They wanted to lock me out of the house I paid for? Fine. Now they were truly locked in, a dark, freezing box with no way to pay the bills. By 2 a.m., the house had plummeted to 45 degrees Celsius. Brittany was huddled on the sofa in cashmere, her teeth chattering like a jackhammer. "Andre, do something," she shrieked. "I can't feel my toes." "You said you'd handle this." Andre stood by the dead thermostat, tapping the black glass in a useless frenzy. He ran to the utility closet and kicked the furnace, but the pilot light was long gone. He stormed back into the living room, his breath visible in his flashlight beam. "She cut it all. Gas, electric, water. She's trying to freeze us out." Mom looked up from her armchair, wrapped in her mink coat. "But you said she wouldn't dare, Andre. You said she was weak." "Don't put this on me," Andre barked, turning his flashlight on Dad, blinding him. "And you, Dad, you call yourself a man? You let your daughter humiliate you. You're useless." "But we changed the locks like you said," Dad whispered, shivering. "And look where it got us." Andre yelled, "If anything happens to my child, it's on your heads." While the men bickered, Brittany saw a different opportunity. She grabbed her makeup bag, using her phone's light to smudge dark eyeshadow under her eyes until she looked gaunt and exhausted. She messed up her hair, propped her phone against a candle, and hit record on TikTok. "Hey guys," she whispered, her breath visible in the air. "I'm scared. My sister, Sarah, is a corporate executive. She owns this house, but she's trying to freeze her own pregnant sister and elderly parents out because we asked for boundaries. Please pray for us." She tagged my company, the local news, and the mayor. Within minutes, it was trending. The next morning in Chicago, I wasn't called into the boardroom for a promotion. I was summoned to HR. The director, Sarah, showed me the video. "We've received 200 emails. People are calling for a boycott. You're on probation, Sarah. Fix this in 24 hours or you're out." I didn't panic. I went nuclear. I hired Mike Vance, a ruthless private investigator. By the end of the day, I had a 50-page dossier on Andre. He wasn't a mogul. He was a predator with 3 failed businesses and a history of destroying properties. But the real bombshell was a loan application he had submitted for $100,000 using my house as collateral, featuring a forged signature from Dad. 10 a.m. the next day, my attorney released the counterstrike. We didn't cry on camera, we released receipts. The lease showing they lived there for $1 a year, the deed proving I saved them from foreclosure in 2019. A spreadsheet of every dime I'd given them, $512,000 over 10 years. The internet flipped instantly. Imagine uninviting the person who spent $500,000 on you, one user wrote. My job was secured, but the dossier on Andre was the killing blow. He owed $80,000 to a gambling ring, the kind of people who break bones. He wasn't trying to protect the family. He was trying to steal my house to pay off his life-threatening debts. Back in the freezing house, Dad confronted Andre with the news. Is this true? You forged my signature? It was a bridge loan, Andre snapped, shoving Dad to the floor. This isn't your house. It belongs to the daughter you treated like trash. My phone buzzed. It was Mom. I put her on speaker. Hi, sweetie, she chirped, her voice dripping with artificial sugar. It's almost Christmas. Let's put this unpleasantness behind us. I'll make your favorite pie. Just unlock the door and turn the heat back on. Unpleasantness? I asked. Andre assaulted Dad. He tried to steal my house for a bookie. And you want to eat pie? Oh, boys will be boys, she laughed nervously. Just fix it, honey. I don't negotiate with terrorists, Mom, I said flatly. I fired you as my mother. I hung up and blocked her. I realized I could never go back to that house. It was a tumor. I didn't call a realtor, I called a firm called Ironclad Acquisitions. We buy problems was their slogan. I have a Victorian and Queen and, I told the owner Marcus. Market is $1.2 million. Catches 4 hostile squatters. I'll take $700,000 cash if you close in 48 hours. $700K? Done, Marcus rasped. Want a message delivered? No, I said, feeling the weight lift. Surprise them. At 2 p.m., the cleaner walked into my office. Mr. Stone didn't look like an agent. He looked like a man who removed problems for a living. And he didn't smile. Stone refrained from shaking my hand. He settled into the chair and placed a hefty dossier on my glass desk. Ms. Harrison, he began, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. I've assessed the property on Maple Drive. The structure is robust, the location is top tier. However, the legal and social liability is significant. I'm aware, I countered, my expression a mask of indifference. For trespassers, no lease, and a hostile environment. I've already killed the power and water. Stone tapped the file with a meticulous finger. Occupants like these are problematic. They play to the media, they vandalize the copper plumbing. Removing them requires a particular level of aggression. My agency doesn't wait for a sheriff's backlog. We apply immediate, uncomfortable pressure, but that efficiency carries a surcharge. He pushed the agreement toward me. The buyout figure was $960,000, 20% under market value. A $250,000 hit to my equity. Final offer, Stone noted. We take the deed and the nightmare today. You walk away with liquidity and zero accountability. We handle the media, the locks, and the removal. To a bystander, that loss was a fortune, a luxury car, a retirement fund. But I wasn't tallying dollars, I was calculating the cost of my freedom. I was paying to stop the theft of my life. I signed without a second of hesitation. Stone's eyebrows climbed. Most people flinch here. They worry about the well-being of the family members inside. I capped my pen. I'm not paying for compassion, Mr. Stone. I'm paying for results. They chose to bite the hand that fed them. Now they can deal with the teeth of the new owner. Stone's lips curved into a sharp, predatory smile. By tomorrow, they'll regret every choice that led them here. By Wednesday, a thick, freezing fog swallowed Maple Drive. At 8 a.m., a black armored SUV pulled into the drive. A man in a tactical vest stepped out and slammed a staple gun against the front door, thwack, 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 securing bright orange papers to the wood. Andre tore the door open and ripped the paper down. Ironclad Acquisitions LLC, he read, his voice wavering. Notice to vacate. 72 hours. She sold it, Gerald whispered, his face turning the color of ash. She actually let it go. Shut up, Andre snapped. It's a bluff. Nobody buys a house in 48 hours. It's a shell company designed to bypass tenant rights. Possession is 9/10 of the law. We aren't moving. They retreated into their blankets, clinging to the delusion that they were in a legal sparring match. They didn't realize they were now an obstacle in a corporate liquidation. 6 a.m. on the final day, the pounding on the door sounded like a demolition crew. It was the rhythmic thud of a battering ram. Andre marched to the door, ready to recite laws he didn't understand, but the sight stopped his heart. A wall of uniforms stood on the porch. 2 deputies and 4 men in ironclad coveralls. A moving truck idled at the curb. Andre Williams, the lead deputy asked. We have a writ of restitution. You were served 72 hours ago. Your time expired at midnight. We need 30 days. Andre shrieked. My wife is pregnant. You had 5 years, the deputy replied. You have 10 minutes to grab your essentials. Refusal results in immediate arrest for criminal trespass. The ironclad crew didn't wait. They surged past him, carrying empty crates. Brenda screamed as a stranger began boxing up her belongings. Brittany sobbed on a pile of garbage bags on the lawn, screaming at the neighbors who were now gathered with their morning coffee, watching the Harrison dynasty collapse into the mud. Amid the chaos, no one saw Andre slip away. He wasn't helping his pregnant wife or his in-laws. He was upstairs, frantically raiding Gerald's mahogany dresser. He found the vintage Rolex, the only thing of value Gerald had left, and shoved it into his pocket. He swept Brenda's diamonds and pearls into a leather bag. He didn't say goodbye. He climbed out the master bedroom window, dropped onto the garage roof, and vanished down the alley, leaving his family to face the winter alone. The final lock clicked shut. Gerald and Brenda stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by black plastic bags getting soaked by the sleet. Where's Andre? Brittany wailed. He has the car keys. Suddenly, the silver Mercedes roared out of the alley. Brittany ran toward the curb, waving her arms. Andre, wait. Stop. Car didn't even tap the brakes. Through the tint, she saw the silhouette of her husband looking straight ahead, focused only on his own survival. Taillights vanished into the gray mist. He left me, Brittany whispered, falling to her knees. They stood there, no car, no money, no home, realizing the daughter they had exploited was the only reason they had ever been warm. And she was gone. The wind off Lake Michigan was a blade, but to me it felt like a cleansing. I walked along the shoreline, my heavy coat shielding me from the world. The silence in my mind was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. The ledger was finally balanced to 0. My phone buzzed. A Seattle area code. An unknown number. I knew who it was. It was a man on a curb, sitting on a wet box of books, realizing he had destroyed his only safety net. He was calling to beg. He was calling for a hotel room. The old Nicole would have answered. She would have set herself on fire to keep them warm. I watched the green button pulse like a trap. I didn't slide to answer. I pressed the side button, silencing the ringer, and went into the settings. Block this caller. I tapped confirm. The line was severed. I turned my back on the west and started walking toward the city lights. I had a life. I had a future. And for the first time, I didn't have to share it with leeches. Shared DNA is not a license for abuse. Nicole's journey is a stark reminder that you cannot buy the respect of people who only see you as a transaction. By enabling her family, she wasn't saving them. She was preventing them from ever becoming adults. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's a requirement for survival. Peace is expensive, and for Nicole, it cost a house and a family. But as she walked away, she proved that your dignity is worth more than any piece of real estate. What is one boundary you need to set today to protect your own peace? I would love to hear in the comments. Thanks for hearing me story.